February 23, 1944. Erwin Rommel was standing before Hitler. He had a file in his hand. Inside, the Atlantic Wall defense plan. But not just defense. Something more radical. Rommel put the file on the desk. He took a deep breath. He knew that what he was about to say would disturb Hitler, but he had to say it. "My leader," said Rommel, "D-Day is coming. Maybe June, maybe July. The Allies will land in France. We must be ready." Hitler nodded. "Of course. That's why I sent you there for the Atlantic Wall. Strengthen the defense." Rommel hesitated, then continued, "But defense isn't enough. A strategic plan is necessary. I propose a different approach." Hitler's eyebrows furrowed. "What do you mean different?" Rommel explained. He described the plan in detail. Hitler listened. His face grew increasingly tense. When Rommel finished, there was silence in the room. Then Hitler, in a cold voice, "No!" Rommel was surprised. "But my leader—" Hitler raised his hand. "No, Rommel. Your plan is based on wrong assumptions. My strategy is different. You follow orders." When Rommel left Berchtesgaden, he was sad. He knew that his proposed plan had been rejected, and perhaps this rejection had sealed Germany's fate. This is that story. The story of Rommel's secret plan. The plan Hitler rejected. But that might have changed the course of the war. Before starting the story, please hit the like button. It helps us reach more people with these forgotten stories. If you're new, subscribe. Turn on notifications. Now, let's get back to the story. This is how it all started. Autumn 1943. The German army was retreating on every front. The Soviets in the east. Italy had fallen in the west. Germany was under siege. Hitler foresaw a new threat. The Allies would land in Western Europe, on the French coasts. Maybe spring 1944. Maybe summer. November 1943. Hitler made a decision. To strengthen the Atlantic Wall, he would appoint one of his best generals, Erwin Rommel. Rommel was serving in northern Italy at the time, but Hitler transferred him to France. Mission: inspect the Atlantic Wall, strengthen the defense, stop the Allied landing. Rommel accepted the mission, but he had doubts inside. December 1943, Rommel began touring the French coasts. Normandy, Pas-de-Calais, Brittany. Beaches, fortifications, artillery. He carefully examined everything, and what he saw worried him. The Atlantic Wall wasn't as strong as propaganda claimed. There were fortifications in some areas, but in many places, just barbed wire and a few guns. Not enough. Rommel wrote in his notebook, "Current defense is insufficient. If the Allies make a determined attack, they'll cross the beaches. A new plan is needed." End of December, Rommel prepared his first report. He presented it at Western Command headquarters. Listeners: von Rundstedt, Western Commander. Various corps commanders. Rommel explained, "The Allies' advantages are clear: air power, naval power, logistics. Our advantage: defense position, terrain knowledge. But we must use this advantage." Rundstedt asked, "How should we use it?" Rommel: "The Allies will land on the beaches. The first 24 hours are critical. If we stop them on the beach, we win. If they get inland, we lose." Rundstedt nodded. Classic defense doctrine. Stop at the beach. But is it enough? Rommel hesitated, then said something more radical. "Defense alone is enough. There must be counterattack too. But counterattack at the right time, in the right place." Rundstedt listened with interest. Continue. Rommel: "When the Allies land, the first hours will be chaotic. They're not yet organized. If we counterattack immediately, we'll throw them back into the sea. But this requires pre-prepared Panzer units, positioned close to the beaches." This was the first version of Rommel's basic idea. But it wasn't a complete plan yet. January 1944, strategic disagreement began between Rommel and Rundstedt. Rundstedt's view: the Allies will probably land at Pas-de-Calais because it's closest to England. Natural choice. We should put our main force there. Rommel objected. Pas-de-Calais is the expected place. But maybe the Allies will land somewhere else. Normandy, Brittany. We must be flexible. Rundstedt: Flexibility means reserves. We should keep Panzer divisions in the interior. Wherever the Allies land, we'll direct them there. Rommel shook his head, but wasn't convinced. No, Allied air power is very strong. If we keep panzers in the interior, they'll be bombed while moving. They'll be destroyed before reaching the beach. This was the fundamental disagreement. Rundstedt, keep panzers in reserve. After the Allies land, direct them. Rommel, position panzers close to the beach. Counterattack immediately. The two generals had drawn different lessons from their own experiences. Rundstedt had fought on the Eastern Front. Their air power was limited. Reserve strategy worked. Rommel had fought in Africa. Their Allied air power dominated. It destroyed moving units. Both were right according to their own experience. But in France, which strategy was correct? This was uncertain. Beginning of February, Rommel developed a more detailed plan. This plan wasn't just defense. It had 3 stages. Stage 1, maximum beach defense. Laid dense mines on every beach. Barbed wire. Anti-tank obstacles. Underwater structures to block landing craft. Purpose, slow down the Allies landing on beaches. Stage 2, panzer deployment close to beach. Position panzer divisions 10 to 20 kilometers inland from the coast. Thus, when the Allies land, counterattack can be made within a few hours. Stage 3, night attacks. Allied air power is weak at night. If the landing is during the day, counterattack can be made in the evening. Create chaos. Prevent the Allies from organizing. This 3-stage plan was the essence of Rommel's when on the beach strategy. But there was a problem. Hitler's approval was needed because panzer divisions were under Hitler's direct control. Rommel could move them. Mid-February, Rommel requested a meeting with Hitler to present his plan. February 23, 1944, Rommel went to Hitler's mountain house. Meeting attendees, Hitler, Keitel, Jodl, operations chief, Rommel. Rommel presented his plan, explained in detail. Hitler listened, but there was suspicion on his face. When Rommel finished, Hitler asked, "You want to put panzer divisions close to the beach?" Rommel, "Yes, my leader. The first 24 hours are critical. If we counterattack immediately, we'll throw the Allies back into the sea." Hitler, "But what if you're wrong? What if the Allies land not where you expect, but somewhere else? Then the panzers will be in the wrong place. Moving them takes time." Rommel, "Leader, Allied air power is very strong. If we keep panzers far away, they'll be bombed while we move them. No chance. But if we keep them close to the beach, at least some will reach the beach." Hitler thought, then looked at Jodl. "What do you think?" Jodl, "Leader, Rommel's analysis is based on his African experience. But France is in Africa. The terrain is different. Air power, yes, strong. But reserve strategy also makes sense." Hitler, "What does Rundstedt say?" Rommel, "Field Marshal Rundstedt prefers reserve strategy. But I think the air power factor cannot be underestimated." Hitler couldn't decide. The meeting ended inconclusively. Hitler, "I need to think. I'll decide later." Rommel left disappointed. March 1944, Rommel began thinking about something else. More radical, more risky, but maybe the only chance. This plan was in Rommel's private notes, but it wasn't fully explained to the public or other generals, because it was very controversial. Essence of the plan: if D-Day fails, meaning the Allies are stopped at the beach, Germany should immediately initiate peace. Rommel's logic: the Allies have invested tremendous resources in D-Day. If it fails, their morale will collapse. Public pressure will increase. Maybe Churchill or Roosevelt will come to the peace table. This is Germany's last chance. But this plan was very dangerous, because saying peace was contrary to Hitler's ideology. Victory or death was Hitler's slogan, not peace. Rommel didn't fully explain this plan, but he hinted at it to his close circle. In private conversations, he said, if we stop D-Day, a political solution might be possible. End of March, Rommel met with Hitler again. This time, he only presented the military plan. He hid the peace part. End of March 1944, Second meeting. This time, Hitler softened a bit. Hitler, Rommel, I partly understand your plan. You should strengthen beach defense. Mines, obstacles, artillery. You have authority for this. Take care of it. Rommel, thank you, leader. But the Panzer divisions? Can I position them close to the beach? Hitler hesitated. Panzer divisions are strategic reserve. Putting them all in one area is risky. Will the Allies land somewhere else? Rommel, leader, we don't have enough panzers. We can't put them everywhere. We must make a choice. Either Normandy or Pas-de-Calais. Hitler, Pas-de-Calais is more likely. Rommel, maybe, but Normandy is also possible. I suggest putting some force in both areas. Hitler thought, then proposed a compromise. I'll give you some panzer divisions, but not all. The rest will stay in reserve. You cannot move them without my approval. Rommel wasn't satisfied, but had to accept. Understood. This was partial approval. Rommel didn't get exactly what he wanted, but it was better than nothing. April-May 1944, Rommel began working intensively. He toured the Normandy and Pas-de-Calais coasts. Engineers, workers, soldiers. Everyone was building fortifications. Rommel's notes. For million mines laid, goal 50 million, but time insufficient. Thousands of anti-tank obstacles on beaches underwater. Steel stakes to block landing craft. Barbed wire, machine gun nests. But there were problems. Problem 1, insufficient resources. Germany's production capacity was declining. Allied bombing was hitting factories. Steel, concrete were lacking. Problem 2, labor shortage. The best soldiers were on the Eastern Front. Those remaining in France were young or old. Training was insufficient. Problem 3, Panzer problem. Hitler was keeping most Panzer divisions in reserve. Rommel got only a few divisions. It wasn't enough. May 1944, Rommel wrote to Hitler again. Letter. My Führer, current resources are insufficient. More Panzer divisions are necessary. Otherwise, we cannot stop the Allies on the beach. Hitler's response was cold. Work with the resources we have. There's nothing more. Rommel was disappointed. Beginning of June, Rommel made one last attempt. This time, he wrote a direct report. Title, Critical Needs to Stop D-Day. What he wrote in the report. At least 10 Panzer divisions should be positioned close to the beach. Currently, only 3. Air defense should be strengthened. Allied air superiority must be broken. Logistics lines must be protected. The Allies are bombing railways. Repairs should be accelerated. Political preparation. If D-Day fails, peace initiative should be considered. The 4th item was most controversial. Rommel used the word peace in an official report for the first time. He sent the report to Hitler. He also sent a copy to Rundstedt. When Rundstedt read the report, he was shocked. He wrote to Rommel, Erwin, you should remove the 4th item. Saying peace will be interpreted as treason to Hitler. Be careful. Rommel replied, I know, but I must tell the truth. If D-Day fails, Germany needs to evaluate this opportunity. Rundstedt didn't insist further, but he was worried. June 4th, 1944, Hitler read Rommel's report. Beside him, Keitel Jodl, Goebbels. Hitler pointed to the 4th item. What does this mean? Political preparation? Peace initiative? What is Rommel thinking? Keitel spoke carefully. Rommel's intention is, if D-Day fails, he thinks the Allies' morale will collapse. Then maybe diplomatic solution. Hitler got angry. Diplomatic solution? Peace? Never. We'll fight until we win. Or die. No peace. Goebbels added, Rommel's intention is good, but his logic is wrong. The Allies want unconditional surrender. There's no peace option. Hitler made his decision. Sent a message to Rommel. 4th item is rejected. Political decisions are my authority. He should concentrate on his military duty. Same day, a message was sent to Rommel. Content. Field Marshal Rommel. Items 1 to 3 of your report are noted. 4th item is not deemed appropriate. Do not interfere in political matters. Focus on your military duty. When Rommel received the message, he read it silently. then put it on the desk. There was no expression on his face. But inside he knew the last chance had been lost. June 6, 1944, early morning hours. The Allies landed in Normandy. Rommel wasn't at his headquarters in La Rocheguyon that night. He had gone to Germany to celebrate his wife's birthday. Because the weather was bad, he had thought, the Allies won't land in this weather. But he was wrong. The Allies landed despite the bad weather. Rommel received a phone call. His chief of staff, Field Marshal, the Allies have landed in Normandy. Large scale. Rommel immediately got in the car, returned to La Rocheguyon. The road was long. Allied planes were bombing the roads. In the afternoon, he reached headquarters, received situation report. The Allies established footholds on 5 beaches. They took heavy casualties at Omaha, but didn't retreat. 18 other beaches. They advanced more easily. German counterattacks failed. Panzers were bombed on the road. Couldn't reach the beach. Rommel looked at the map and understood his plan had been rejected. The Panzers were too far away. They were waiting for Hitler's approval. But Hitler hadn't decided yet. In the evening, Rommel called Rundstedt. We must mobilize Panzer reserves. Now, Rundstedt, we're waiting for the leader's approval. We haven't reached him yet. Rommel, but we're losing time. The Allies are consolidating. Rundstedt, I know, Erwin, but orders are orders. We must wait. At midnight, Hitler's approval came. Panzer reserves mobilized. But it was too late. The Allies had strengthened the beaches. Panzers were subjected to air attack on the road. Heavy casualties. June 7th to 10th, Rommel tried to organize counterattacks. But every attempt failed. Problems. Air power. Allied planes were bombing all movements during the day. Panzer delay. Reserve panzers came late. They were too far away. Lack of coordination. Hitler insisted on central command. But decisions came late. June 11th, Rommel wrote in his diary, D-Day is lost. The Allies cross the beaches. They're advancing inland because my plan was rejected. If we had positioned panzers close to the beach, maybe it would have been different. This was Rommel's personal opinion. But really, would it have been different? Historians are debating this question. June 17th, 1944, Hitler came to France, meeting with Rommel and Rundstedt at Soissons. Topic: the situation in Normandy. Rommel spoke directly. Leader, the situation is bad. The Allies are getting stronger every day. We're getting weaker. The air power difference is too great. We cannot win. Hitler got angry. Don't make defeatist talk, Rommel. We'll continue fighting. Rommel, but leader, we must be realistic. Soldier losses, tank losses, logistics collapse. How much longer can we hold? Hitler, new weapons are coming. V-1 rockets, jet aircraft. They'll turn the war around. Rommel shook his head. V-1 is being fired at civilian targets. Its military effect is limited. Jet aircraft are few. Not enough. Hitler looked at Rommel harshly. You're breaking morale. As my general, you should give hope, not hopelessness. Rommel remained silent, but inside he thought, Hitler doesn't see reality. The meeting ended tensely. Hitler returned to Germany. Rommel stayed in France. July 1944, Rommel began thinking about something else, more radical, more dangerous. To his close circle, in private conversations, Hitler doesn't see reality. The war is lost. Germany will be destroyed. Someone has to stop it. Chief of Staff, Speidel. What do you propose? Rommel, carefully. Peace. Agreement with the Western Allies. Without Hitler. Speidel was surprised. This means a coup. Rommel. Yes, but it's necessary. These conversations were kept very secret, but some officers were connected to the July 20th plot. Stauffenberg's plan to assassinate Hitler. Rommel didn't directly participate in the plot, but he knew and didn't oppose it. Speidel later, after the war, wrote, Rommel supported Hitler's removal from office, but not assassination. Arrest, then trial. But the other conspirators preferred assassination. July 17th, 1944, Rommel was inspecting the front by car, near Normandy. In the afternoon, British fighter planes appeared. They attacked Rommel's car. Machine gun fire. Rommel was seriously injured. Skull fracture. The vehicle rolled into a ditch. Rommel was taken to the hospital. He survived critical danger, but was too injured to return to command. This was the end of Rommel's Normandy adventure. He was no longer a field commander. Rommel's plan was rejected, but would it really have worked? Historians' views. Stephen Ambrose, D-Day historian. Rommel's plan was logical. Stop at the beach, counterattack immediately. But was it enough? Probably not. The Allies' material superiority was too great. Rommel's plan might have delayed D-Day, but couldn't have stopped it. Anthony Beaver. Rommel correctly read the air power factor. Keeping panzers in the interior was a mistake. But Rommel's alternative was also problematic. Put panzers close to the beach? But which beach? The Allies could have landed at Pas-de-Calais. Then the panzers would have been in the wrong place. Max Hastings. The outcome of D-Day depended more on Allied superiority than German strategy. Rommel or Rundstedt. It wouldn't have mattered. The Allies were so powerful they could have won against any strategy. Conclusion. Rommel's plan could have increased Germany's chances, but couldn't have guaranteed it. Allied superiority was too great. Rommel's story is tragic because correct analysis, wrong conclusion. He correctly read the air power factor, but his solution wasn't sufficient. Clash with Hitler. He told the truth, but Hitler didn't listen. Political naivete. The peace initiative idea was naive. The Allies wouldn't make peace with the Nazi regime. July 20th connection. He didn't participate directly, but suspicion killed him. Rommel was an idealist general. He wanted to win the war, but it wasn't possible. Then he wanted peace, but that wasn't possible either. In the end, he was killed by Hitler. Tragic end. Why did Hitler reject Rommel's plan? Reason 1. Fear of loss of control. Rommel's plan gave panzers to local commanders. Hitler wanted central control. I decide. Generals just execute. Reason 2. Paranoia. Hitler didn't trust generals. Maybe they'll betray. They'll use panzers wrongly. Even before July 20th, he was suspicious. Reason 3. Wrong intelligence. Hitler expected landing at Pas-de-Calais. Intelligence falsely indicated there. Putting panzers in Normandy would be a mistake. Reason 4. Ideological stubbornness. Hitler was enslaved to no-retreat logic. Rommel's plan included flexible defense. Hitler saw flexibility as weakness. Reason 5. Past successes. Hitler had defeated France in 1940. I'm a war genius. Rommel is just a field commander. Overconfidence. How was Rommel's plan viewed by other generals? Rundstedt. Rommel is influenced by his African experience. But France is in Africa. Reserve strategy makes more sense. Rundstedt preferred cautious approach. Heinz Guderian, panzer theorist. Rommel doesn't understand panzer doctrine. Panzers are for offense, not defense. Using them in static defense is wasteful. Conclusion. Rommel was in the minority. Most generals supported reserve strategy. But Rommel understood the air power factor better than them. Rommel's plan was rejected. D-Day resulted in Allied victory. Germany lost. Would it have been different if the plan had been accepted? Realistic answer. Probably not. Because Allied material superiority was too great. Air power difference could have neutralized German strategy, no matter what if D-Day had failed. The Allies would have tried again. But Rommel's plan could have slightly increased Germany's chances. Maybe D-Day would have been more difficult. Maybe more Allied casualties. Maybe the war would have lasted a few more months. But the result wouldn't have changed. Germany would have lost. Rommel knew this. That's why he thought about peace initiative. But that was also impossible. Rommel's tragedy. He asked the right questions, but couldn't find the answers, because there were no answers. Hitler's rejection was the end of Rommel's plan, but also the end of Germany's last chance in the West. Rommel saw reality. Hitler didn't. Rommel warned. Hitler didn't listen, and the result, Normandy was lost. France was lost. Germany was defeated. History's lesson: leaders should listen to field commanders, should take realistic analyses seriously. Ideological stubbornness leads to strategic disaster. Rommel's plan wasn't perfect, but it was better than Hitler's stubbornness. And maybe history could have been different, but it wasn't, because Hitler rejected, and Rommel died, and Germany lost. If this story affected you, please hit the like button. Every like helps us reach more people with these forgotten stories. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Remember, history repeats itself, but only if we don't learn its lessons. Write a comment. What do you think about Rommel's plan? Could it really have made a difference? Thanks for watching. Remember, history gives lessons not only from winners, but also from losers.